Hello guys. In this section, I'm going to talk about how to draw a diagram representing transaction state. To draw a diagram representing transaction state, we can use state diagram, also known as state chart diagram. State chart diagram describe the flow of control from one state to another state. States are defined as a condition in which an object exists and it changes when some event is triggered. The most important purpose of state chart diagram is to model lifetime of an object from creation to termination. These are the basic components of a state chart diagram. Initial state. We use a blank filled circle represent the initial state of a system or a class. Transition. We use a solid arrow to represent the transition or change of control from one state to another. The arrow is labeled with the event which caused the change in state. State. We use a rounded rectangle to represent a state. A state represents the condition or circumstance of an object of a class at an instant of time. Fork. We use a rounded solid rectangle bar to represent a fork notation with the incoming arrow from the parent state and outgoing arrow towards the newly created state. We use the fork notation to represent a state splitting into two or more concurrent state. Join. We use a rounded solid rectangular bar to represent a join notation with the incoming arrows from the joining states and outgoing arrow towards the common goal state. We use a join notation when two or more state concurrently coverage into one on the occurrence of an event or events. Self transition. We use the solid arrow pointing back to the state itself to represent a self transition. There might be scenario when the state of the object does not change upon the occurrence of an event. We use self transition to represent such cases. Composite state. We use the rounded rectangle to represent a composite state also. We represent a state with the internal activities using a composite state. Final state. We use a filled circle with a circle notation to represent the final state in a state chart diagram. Steps to draw a state chart diagram. Identify the initial state and the final termination states. Identify the possible state in which the object can exist. Label the event which trigger these transitions. An example to draw a state chart diagram. In this diagram, I'm going to use an online order. The UMI diagrams we draw depend on the system we aim to represent. Here is just an example of how an online ordering system might look like. On the event of an order being received, we transmit from our initial state to unprocessed order state. The unprocessed order is then checked. If the order is rejected, we transmit to the rejected order state. If the order is accepted and we have that item available, we transmit to the fulfilled order state. However, if the item are not available, we transmit to the pending order state. After the order is fulfilled, we transmit to the final state. In this example, we merge the two states, that is, fulfill the order and reject the order into one final state. Thank you for listening to me.